Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 12, where we're going to cover chapters 12 through 17 of The Great Hunt. Joining me on The Great Hunt are my good friends Jody.
Good morning, everybody.
And Villy.
Blood and bloody ashes.
That's where we are. Willem, you have at this point finished The Great Hunt, have you not?
I have indeed.
Excellent. Okay, so what happened last week was Jody and I were sort of speculating about things that I'm pretty sure you had the answers to, but you were reluctant to let them fly. But please do take the same initiative that we offer to our listeners and correct us in the episode on the live show. If you know of something that happens in the book that we should know about, because I mean, it's pretty obvious to everyone that we can go off on some pretty wild tangents, and if you can nip that in the bud, sweet.
Oh, why would we nip any of that in the bud? It's exactly what we want to do. Tangents is what we're made of.
They are so delicious, aren't they, those tangents? Let's see. What should we start with? Of course, we're going to do a couple callbacks just to the last episode. And I think what we just discussed actually ties in with the first callback that I have noted down here, which is that we spent a lot of time talking about the assassination attempt on what we thought was Rand and the Amelin by an unknown archer from somewhere in the crowd in Feldara before the parties left. I said with 100% conviction that this is absolutely an attempt on Rand's life. I mean, the way it was written and everything, where I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, but later in the book, it turns out that the attempt was on the Amelin's life.
Well, what I have picked up now is just a little hint, which again now reaffirms the Slayer thing. And it's something that Swan says. But we'll get to it.
Okay, so we're going to keep this one alive, even though I'm about to stomp on it pretty hard and bring it to within an inch of its life.
I don't believe stomping is due quite yet.
Because what I've read since, and not in the story, but online, is that towards the end of the book, when Ingtar sort of comes clean about being a dark friend, which is something we've spoken about at length, he admits to letting a very nondescript man into the keep, sort of in the context of who, you know, could have made this attempt on the Amelin's life. And it's generally accepted that it was a grey man. That Ingtar let a grey man into the keep, and that, you know, we were sort of puzzled by the fact that anyone would make an attempt on Rand's life, and apparently it is also commonly accepted. Not that I'll just go with the flow, you know, like if we have, you know, cause to question what everyone is accepting, then great, maybe we, you know, we make a discovery that no one else has. But we were sort of thinking, why would this person be trying to kill Rand if the Forsaken are actively trying to turn him without killing him? And it is supposedly a grey man trying to kill the Amelin, and that's what transpired.
Well, he's shit at his job.
Quite.
Well, I'm still putting the theory out there to dangle on the Christmas tree like a piece of decoration that that guy in the red breeches and red shirt, he had some debts to pay. He had some gambling debts.
Our dominant theory is still that it was a successful assassination of man in red shirt.
Man in red shirt was gambling with Matt. And he went to the house and he took out a sizable loan, which he lost to Matt.
Villy's really fleshed out this theory.
Shit, I'm back on board. Villy, you got me. Okay, so then, I mean, other callbacks are just random things, like we were sort of lamenting the fact that there wasn't more about Tam after we recounted Tam's story, like, you know, Moraine telling the story of Tam leaving Eamon's Field and becoming a soldier, and Ilian becoming one of the companions and all that sort of stuff. We were saying, oh man, it would have been so great to have a story. I read somewhere online that Robert Jordan originally had Tam as the protagonist of the story, and that he was, I don't want to use the word pressured, but he was sort of coaxed into a direction of a young boy leaving a village, sort of fitting those fantasy tropes that we are all too
hero's
familiar
journey
with. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, like we could have been reading Tam's story right now, and I'm also pretty sure that I read about a planned sort of outrigger novel covering exactly that, covering Tam's story. It was in the works before Robert Jordan's untimely death, obviously.
I will put my money down that if this is a successful production, and it runs its course.
The
That
TV show.
Yeah, the TV show.
Yeah.
That they will go and write the Tam story and bring
Yes.
that to the show.
We might not get the Tam book, but we'll get the Tam show.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I would, man, who would not watch that? Come
Yeah,
on.
I mean, I'm all over it. And then I wanted to ask you, Vili, so have you read anything? And I mean, having read the end of The Great Hunt, did you get any more clarity around Fane's role at the clash at Toman Head would be? We were sort of dancing around Dark Prophecy and the fact that Fane was sort of holding out, muttering to himself, "We will meet again on Toman's Head, and then I will be rid of you," almost like he is part of the prophecy. Or, he just knows about the prophecy because he's been a Dark Friend for so long, and that he knows that the prophecy itself says that Rand will be at Toman Head, so that's a place that he can go and maybe use the chaos of whatever battle is destined to be there to sneak in and try and kill Rand. Did you get any more clarification towards the end of the book?
No, I think it was a lure, to be honest, because there's no clash between Rand and Fane. But Rand has a fight in the clouds with
Yes.
Ishmael.
Mm.
That's where he melts his power wrought sword by stabbing Ishmael and burns
Yes.
the second heron in his hand. But there's Fane is basically, other than being spotted in the crowd, he doesn't take part at all. So I think
Interesting.
it was just a lure, tempting him to come out. Come on, I'm here. You after me? I don't
Okay.
know. But yeah, there's no real clash with the two of them yet.
Okay. Okay, well, that's all I had from last week's debates.
It's wild speculation.
Yes. Did you guys want to call back to anything from last week, or are you happy to move on?
I'm happy to move on. I was listening to it, and there's still a few theories that popped in and out of my head during this. But as I do while I go fishing on the kayak, I put the headphones in my ear and I listen to our timely podcast. And then I'm like, there's no notepad to write this down. But don't worry, I'll remember it. Sure as hell I didn't.
Okay, so last time Joe, we dropped you in the shit last time and made you recap where we left off. This time I'll do it. I made an attempt to actually write it down. So we said that last time we left off with Rand, Mat, and Perrin, and Loial chasing down Paden Fane and his dark friends, along with Ingtar and his lancers, to reclaim the Horn of Lear and the dagger from Shadow Logoth that Mat needs to be able to be healed. Rand had just admitted to Mat and Perrin that he could channel. And as he went to sleep that night, the void sort of came to him. And we all know now, obviously, what happens. We knew back even then that, going to sleep next to a portal stone and the void coming to you could mean trouble. And then we finally had a scene with Paden Fane sort of just muttering under his breath about meeting at Toman Head and finally being rid of Rand. And that is where we stopped. So now, shall we get stuck in?
Oh, yes.
Yes, please.
Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is called Woven in the Pattern. And here we join Egwene as she's following Nynaeve into the sort of knot of Aes Sedai that are preparing to leave Feldara, going to the White Tower. And they're all sort of huddled around the Amerlin's palanquin. Everyone can see, like the gash in her arm because she's got a window open, and everyone's still kind of shocked and reeling from the attack that had just happened. It's lots of commotion, and Agelmar is trying to convince Swan to stay still, but now saying, "We'll have the bowman within an hour." We'll find out who did this, and she just brushes it off and says, "That's not going to happen. Besides, I've got no time to spare. I gotta go. Sorry, Agelmar." And in that moment, Swan also looks over to Egwene and Nynaeve, who are now right there, and she mentions to Moraine, "These are the two, that you found." And she acknowledges them, but then pretty much brushes them aside as well and just orders everyone to skedaddle. They all have to go to horse and leave. And so they leave, and Egwene and Nynaeve sort of ride behind the Aes Sedai as they go, knowing their place. And as they leave and they see the keep sort of disappearing behind them, Nynaeve notices that Lan and Moraine are riding off to the side by themselves. They're not riding with the other Aes Sedai, which was noteworthy. I think Moraine is probably not in anyone's good books at this stage, right? The other Aes Sedai are kind of wary, well, not wary of her, but almost suspicious of her. Some of them not even almost, some of them like downright suspicious of her, Leandrin and her ilk. So they're riding towards the town where they're going to go meet when they're going to get on the boats and ride the boats back to Tavalon, and they make camp that night. And what we see happen here is a series of visitations from different Aes Sedai every night to come and give them training from a bunch of Aes Sedai except Moraine. Moraine does not come to talk to them. She barely acknowledges their presence. The first Aes Sedai that comes to give them a bit of coaching is Verin, who we know is Black Ajah, and I'll bring that up every time Verin is mentioned. But she's come in to sort of see what they're about, and she walks Egwene and Nynaeve. After a bit of convincing, she walks both of them through a couple of exercises, and they sort of train in using the power until quite late at night. They have varying levels of success. Like Egwene has a little bit of success, but Nynaeve is sort of stuck behind her blocks as a wilder. Verin explains that it would be a bit harder for her as a wilder to actually get control of the power, even though she has managed some of it herself. And later in the night, when Egwene is sort of zoned out and Verin is running through these exercises with Nynaeve, she notices Verin talking as if Nynaeve has now actually embraced the source, and she can see Verin is trying to guide her through that. And in Nynaeve's frustration, she somehow sets a whole bunch of blankets on fire. Verin isn't really fazed by it. Yeah, she just uses the one power to put it out. But Nynaeve admits to being frustrated and then just thinking of fire, but just a little fire, and then the blankets set alight.
Her anger really does get her channeling. Like
it does. It does.
But you said the word there, and for me, it was so good that when you read about wild, because this is the first time you read about wilders, where they mention the word wilders and the blocks that they put up, sort of the walls that they build around it. She'd have it more difficult to break past that. But yeah, that's again she getting frustrated and setting the place on fire.
Totally. After that, Verin says, "Okay, look, I've probably pushed you guys a little bit too hard," and she leaves. But every night they're met by a different Aes Sedai. The next Aes Sedai that comes to train them is, I think, let me see, is it Liandrin?
No, she was the third.
She was the third?
Yeah.
But within the first couple, it's Verin, Liandrin, Alviarin, all three of them Black Ajah. Alana comes in at one point, but all Alana wants to do is talk about men and sort of warders and Rand, like already sort of making overtures that we know what they will lead to later in the game. Liandrin is like basically not even coaching them. She's just interrogating them about Rand and the boys. And Alviarin, she actually comes across as kind of like strict but fair. Like she's very no nonsense, but she does actually coach them a little bit, which is interesting for another Black Ajah member. Let's see. Oh, Alana, I think, was the second one.
Yeah, Liandrin came in, and instead of teaching them, she continuously pressed them for information on the three boys until they chucked her out. Them, literally chucked her out of the tent.
Yeah. So anyway, this is how they travel. They're riding by day, and the Aes Sedai come in at night, and they sort of give them a bit of training until they reach this little town of, I think it's called Meadow or something. Yeah, Meadow, where all the ships that they traveled on from Tavalon are docked. And we join Egwene as she's sort of just walking around the docks looking for Nynaeve, and she finds Anaya, and Anaya's busy just shouting orders to a bunch of stevedores and porters and stuff who are loading stuff onto the boats. And she comes up to her and she says, look, have you seen Nynaeve? And she said, look, Nynaeve is already on one of the bigger boats out on the water. Queen. You need to find a rowboat. Yeah, the River Queen. You need to find a rowboat to take you out there. But Egwene is trying to tell Anaya that she thinks that Rand is in trouble based on a dream that she had. And she explains in the dream she sees a man with a mask and fire for eyes. I mean, no prizes for guessing who that is. And in her dream, he seemed surprised to see her there. And then in the dream, when she sees him and he notices her, he vanishes. She can then see Rand sleeping on the ground, wrapped in his cloak, with a woman standing over him. And then they both vanish, and Egwene only senses an overwhelming sense of danger. Now, as I'm going over this, I remember there is an instance later in a later chapter. I think I actually do the chapter where Rand wraps himself in his cloak and there's a woman standing. Well, they don't say anything about the woman standing over him, but it might be that exact same scene. But that is, again, I mean, we've seen glimpses of Lanfear now a couple times, right? And that's obviously
Mm.
Lanfear keeping an eye on her love interest.
I've got a full theory over here. Locked and loaded.
Chambered and ready to go. And Anaya immediately doesn't discount it, which is great. She doesn't chase her off saying, this is just a silly dream. She immediately says, oh, wouldn't it be great if you've actually got the talent for dreaming? If you're a dreamer, that could be something we haven't seen in a very, very long time, in centuries. That skill is also often, or that talent is also often linked with foretelling. So maybe you even have an ability to do some level of foretelling. Later in the books, obviously, we find out all about how powerful a dreamer Egwene is, and she spends a lot of time with the wise ones learning how to really tweak that into a massive weapon for them. But after that, Anaya gets distracted by other people, and Egwene just sort of peers into the dark to the south, and she knows at that point already, she knows without any communications with Rand and Ingtar's group that they're not in the Blight. She's looking south, and she knows that they've gone south. So for the first time reader, you already know that, okay, she has a handle on the truth. So there is something to this dreaming of hers. So while you haven't read yet about Baalzamon or Lanfear or anything like that in the portal stone worlds, you know that Egwene's dream has an element of truth to it because she knows that he's to the south and not in the Blight. But yeah, that's how the chapter ends.
All right. You ready for me? Because
Let's hear it.
I've been thinking hard.
Okay, fire away.
You had the theory of Slayer, and the theory of Slayer made a lot of sense because it is said in the script on the walls that Verin copied down when Fane was freed about Luke and Isom. But Robert Jordan is very good at throwing these little hints. And in the protest at Algamar, when he says, "But mother, I've got a party plan for you," she says the exact word. The Emberlin barked a laugh with no amusement in it. "You'll need Slayer bait or find a net to catch this fish." Why would he say Slayer bait?
Slayer bait.
Yeah, have a look at that in the first page of chapter 12.
I'm going to do this live on air.
Kindle out.
You'll need slyer bait or finer nets.
You dyslexic again. Dyslexia for the win.
Billy, that was a valiant effort at keeping my harebrained theory alive. I appreciate it, and I'm going to hold on to a glimmer of hope that I was right about Slayer. But the Amelin does not make any reference to Slayer.
Damn it. I was looking at the spelling of that. Again, second language, people. Second language.
Well done.
What else there, guys? I mean,
the Egwene's dream, seeing a woman standing over him sleeping while they're on the stone. I still think Lanfear took him. She did the portal stone.
Interesting. Look, that fits because I have a lot of questions about, okay, I'm going to call her Celine now just to isolate the Lanfear instance to this portal world. Celine is in one of many, many different portal worlds, right? This is an if world. That's why everything's so faded. It's a place that exists as if it could be a possibility with no people in it. But Celine is there when they are busy riding. So for her to have taken Rand and Hurin and Loial there would make sense. I would question why she would take Hurin and Loial.
Because they were sleeping right there.
Maybe because they're just right there, yeah. But it's like you said, like when they travel back as well, she tells him which symbol to focus on, and he has to hold that symbol in his mind to be able to go to the true world, the circle with the upside down triangle in it. So Rand, even if he channeled, would need to know to hold a specific symbol in his head to go to a specific world, which would then have to happen to be the one that Celine is sort of like setting up for him to, to channel in and stuff. We'll get to that when the Grolm and stuff appear. I've got theories about that as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. That plays part of it as well for me. Like the selected universe.
Yeah, in the later chapters that we do cover in this episode, there is the visitation from Baalzamon, and obviously Selene is also on the scene. So I don't know how many days Egwene has traveled when she has this dream. So I don't know if this is Baalzamon and Lanfear sort of checking in on Rand on the way there. Is it them sleeping in the Portal Stone world where Baalzamon is actually, because that's where Baalzamon appears, because he doesn't appear in the original world. He appears to Rand in the Portal Stone world. So I can't place the scene of Baalzamon and Lanfear or Selene or the woman standing over him on the timeline. Although, as I say that, Baalzamon makes reference when he's talking to Rand in the later chapter to the girl that tries to watch over you, and that connects with Egwene seeing Baalzamon in the world of dreams and him noticing her there.
Yeah, because in the next chapter, Rand takes the first guard and sort of while Hurin and Loial sleeps, and he then comes to him sort of out of the fog.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I mean, but I'm trying to use that so Baalzamon knows that Egwene is looking after Rand, or trying to, or that's how he perceives it. So did that happen before they actually traveled? Or was Egwene's dream of Rand sleeping next to a portal stone in the portal stone world?
Interesting.
I think it's before.
You think it's before?
Hmm.
That's my gut feel as well.
Let's look at what we know for a fact. The keeper that had the prophecy of the dragon being reborn and died when Moraine and Swan was present in the room. She had that, and she said it had happened. So if this is sort of a foretelling, because she had the foretelling, right?
Gitara Moroso,
Yeah.
she had the talent for foretelling. No one said that what she uttered there was a foretelling, because, like you are saying, she referred to it in the past tense. It had
Yes.
already happened. So it's an aft telling.
But I wonder if this is because is this Nynaeve, Egwene already starting to get into that world of dreams?
Oh, yes. I think so.
You think so?
I think Egwene is walking in the world of dreams already. And I think that is why Baalzamon is surprised to see her there and then disappears immediately, and then later references her in his speech to Rand about the girl that is trying to look after you. So I think, yes, Joe, I agree. I think the scene that Egwene is describing here is before they've actually traveled via this. It could be the same night.
I think it's the night he fell asleep, and then Lanfear and Moradin are in the world of dreams, standing over Rand, where he is in the real world, making plans to, okay, we're going to channel this guy. I don't know why they would send him through the portal stones. I don't know what the plan was there, but definitely danger. That's what she comes in. She sees them planning this, and then later on, that's when Moradin mentions, like, oh, they got that girl watching over you.
We'll cover this later, but Selene is very much trying to pressure Rand into channeling.
Yes.
So isolating Rand, putting him in danger, and making him channel is her goal. So, like, that might be a reason to take him to a Portal Stone world and go, okay, what are you going to do here? You got a channel, buddy. And then calls like 5 Grom, and then when he kills them, maybe calls more. Did they really come? Are they real Grom? Is it an illusion? Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was taken aback by the number of Black Ajah sisters that had a hand in their early training, like right in the beginning. I mean, they've got their finger on the pulse, right? Like, I mean, these black sisters in the tower masquerading as normal Aes Sedai, who then come across these 2 powerful novices that, are going to be brought into the tower, and they immediately have access to them. They're traveling with the Amelin seat, like they are right in the mix.
Oh, completely. Yeah. It's actually quite scary that they've got such a presence.
It's not just one.
It's nuts.
And just in that small party, what's that?
Yes.
Like 20% of the Aes Sedai there are Black Ajah. If you put it into percentages. That's a shit ton of Black Ajah.
Okay, should we move along?
We can do that.
Chapter 13 is called From Stone to Stone. Vili, take it away.
All right. Rand wakes up and shit's not good.
The end.
He's like, he wakes up. You would probably have thought he had way too many drinks the night before because things are a little bit hazy, but nothing's the same, and everyone else is gone. The hollow itself that they went to sleep in has changed, and now it's a clear portal stone with steps going down in all the colors of the Ajahs, and he's really really confused about it. He wakes up Loial and Hurin, and they equally confused about this, and sort of no, Lord Rand, you've got to be able to take us out of this, and confused. Like there's no sign, no life, no birds. Everything's quiet. Everything is different. But they've got to get up and going. And Loial eventually pipes up. He's read some of this from the Age of Legends, that people could travel using these stones. And now that he's seen the stone, because it was sort of under the ground and kind of buried where they went to sleep on, so they couldn't really see. It's like, and he kind of paraphrases some of it, but I mean it's a fragment, not enough to give them any real sort of information. Later on, he tells a bit like, yeah, no, it's worlds that could have been, but we'll get to that. And they're like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And poor Hurin, yeah, he's just like, I need to go home. I need to be able to go home. Can you get us home? Because I've got a wife and children. It's quite a human, like a,
yeah, it cut me deep.
Yeah.
When he said that, I was like,
yeah,
oh shit, yeah,
absolutely. And he's like, they need to give me mother's embrace so that they can rest. Like it's a really like, he's not just a scallywag soldier. That's kind of like, if you read his character and the way he speaks, and you almost want to like him to sort of a peasant style that worked himself up into the soldier as a tracker or something.
he's a simple man.
He's a simple man. It's like good man, a very good man. So yeah, Rand says, "No, I'll do my best. I'll try and do my best." And also throws in a bit of honor there. It says, "Buy my house and buy my honor," and then to himself, the shepherd's house and the shepherd's honor. It's quite funny. Rand still having his little doubts about himself there.
There's a lot of that in these chapters.
Yeah, absolutely. But they make the decision to saddle up and get moving, and really find the land is different, but the land's the same. Rand is obviously realizing he still does have the banner with him, at least, so that they can't find it on that side. So the horses came along with him, and
Yes.
yeah, this the big thing here is Hurin can still smell. He still has a very faint trail to follow, and it's still leading south. So they are still on the right track, still going south. And it's actually quite a short chapter. There's nothing much beyond that.
No.
Smell the dog. The Sniffer is still in the saddle, and they're on the way. And yeah, what did I miss there?
I think it's mostly them sort of setting up this portal stone world that they're in.
Yes.
The descriptions of like, the land sort of sliding in and out of, distance when you're not looking at it. Loial asks Rand something at some point about like, how do you expect to use the stone? Because Rand sort of says to Hurin, I think, to give him hope, don't worry, we'll use the portal stones. I'll get you out of here. And when Loial says, how do you expect to do that? The portal stones were a thing of the power. Oh, he says that it was the Aes Sedai of the Age of Legends also didn't know much about them and were studying them. So maybe the people that built them weren't using the one power to use them. Which is quite an elaborate but plausible reason to think that you can use it. And my note was that he was really quick on his feet. Like he had to think of a reason why he thought he could use it without giving away the fact that he thinks he needs to channel into it to use it.
This is interesting because it is something that's pre-Age of Legends, but yet you need to channel a lot of the one power to use it. So where did they come from? Is this like another age from another turning of a complete turning of the wheel from?
Well, that's what Loial sort of gives way to, that it's something that may even have been before the Age of Legends.
No, it is.
The book fragment that Loial studied was from the Age of Legends. And in the fragment of that book, they were just basically a bunch of questions about these portal stones, a lot of them seeming to sort of contradict each other as well. So it seemed obvious to him that whoever was studying them during the Age of Legends also didn't understand them. But that didn't stop them from actually adapting some of the stuff they learned from the portal stone worlds into how they grew the ways. The ways are built on knowledge gained from studying the portal stones.
Ah, right. It's a predecessor to the ways.
Yeah. It's older than the Aes Sedai of the Age of Legends.
But still one power related, which to me is, because there's lots of stuff that's older than the Age of Legends, like the Wolf Brother thing and, the Sniffers and stuff. But that's not one power related. So this comes from a time, because, I mean, from what we know, the wheel turns and every age is different. And in some ages, there's no power. Like we are supposed to be us right now in one of the ages where we've forgotten all of this. So there must become an age again where they use the one power, create the stones, the portal stones, and then everything turns again and comes back to the Aes Sedai of the Age of Legends who discover them, what's left of them, and start studying them. So these are old stuff, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, Billy. Like, there's not a lot of substance to this chapter. It's just we've just read a bunch of chapters set in these worlds, and we've read about them before. So to us, this is like, yeah, I get it. It's weird. It's a weird place. It's a world based on possibility. So okay, cool, we get it. But for first-time readers, it would be a more interesting chapter than it is to us on a reread.
Is this chapter the one where they describe the Black Earth? Like they describe how the grass, everything is burnt, or is that in the later chapter?
Not quite. Is it?
I think when they get
I thought
moving,
that was also in my chapter.
Yeah, the whole time it's going about it. This when they start moving, that looks like patches that's burned.
Well, they say that, I mean, right from the get-go, when they look around the clearing that they wake up in, they see the steps, the concentric rings sort of going out from the portal stone in the middle, which is a column. I don't know if we said that, but there's like a column in the middle of this depression in the ground.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's got these steps going up towards a ridge around it. And those steps, there are 7 of them, and they're colored for, one for each of the arches. But then even in this chapter, it says along the top of the ridge are a bunch of burnt trees. So they're already mentioning that the land looks burnt, but it's in a later chapter that I'll cover in a bit, where they mention the specific shape of those. And I mean, we'll get to it, but who read those descriptions and didn't think of like dragons?
Oh, totally.
Blowing, but we'll get there. But yes, weird world, weird stuff about distances, like scenery sliding in and out of your periphery. It's just bizarre. No signs of life.
None whatsoever. Yet.
Rand immediately accepts responsibility and command. Like when they're there, he knows, quote unquote knows. He thinks it's his fault that they are there because of the void, and he makes that connection as well. He knows that when he assumes the void, Saidin is waiting there for him, this warm light just out of touch that he could reach to if he wanted to, and he knows that the void came to him as he fell asleep. So maybe, Billy, to back up your Lanfear theory, the reason why Robert Jordan mentioned the void coming to Rand as he's falling asleep around that thing could just be the catalyst for Rand assuming that it was his fault. And then when they get here, assuming command, Hurin, as part of Ingtar's lances, not as a soldier, but as a sniffer, would be across the chain of command. So he would know that Rand was second in charge to Ingtar. So it's natural for him to take charge. Loial, is his whole role in the story is to sort of just trail along, right? Like observe. By his own admission, he just wants to observe. He wants to travel with, so he's letting Rand take charge. But Rand also immediately just takes charge, right? Like he doesn't shirk from that responsibility, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, he's really stepping into his own now. He's kind of starting to believe a little bit of this. I mean, after all, he's now Lord Rand.
But now, for the first time with strangers, like in the past, he's sort of taken a leadership role with his friends. But now with Hurin and Loial, there was no reason for him to. It would have been very easy for Rand to say, Loial, you know a little bit about these worlds. You're, almost 100 years old. What do you think we should do? But he doesn't ask him. He just says, okay, this is what we'll do. And he takes charge. What else?
There is not a lot of meat in that chapter, to be honest.
There's not a lot of meat on these bones at all.
No. But there's plenty of meat in the chapters to come.
Indeed.
Speaking of which, chapter 14 is called Wolf Brother. So, Joe, why don't you take us to that one?
Joe Brother. That's me. Chapter 14. This is we join Ingtar's camp, so now we're back in the real world. And they're all confused, obviously, because Rand, Loial, and Hurin have just disappeared completely. Not even Uno can find them, and he's swearing his head off. And he's like, search the camp, and there's not a sign, not a scruff of a hoof, nothing. Like they've just popped up, disappeared from the face of the earth, which they did. But to them, of course, to the rest of the guys, they can't figure it out. Well, anyway, so the Sniffer's missing is 2, which is a big issue. Now, how are they going to find the horn? How are they going to find they're not great about the dagger, I suppose, but they're looking for the horn. So they need a Sniffer. So Perrin pretends to be a Sniffer, basically, using his wolf talent. So he first reaches out to commune with the wolves because he's been putting it off for so long. He hasn't done it in a while, but he realizes, because he's doing it, I mean, Ingtar is just the horn, but Perrin is like, well, shit, we've got to find this dagger for Matt. So I'll use my wolf powers and see if I can find them. So he reaches out with his mind to the Force, and he finds a different pack. He does find wolves, obviously, because there's always wolves, because they're out in the wilderness, basically, here between Faldara and Kirheim is just nothingness. So he reaches out and he finds a different pack, and they all think, like, oh, we've heard about you. Like, we know about this 2 legs that can talk with us. Are you Elias? Are you Longtooth? I think they call him, right?
Yes. I keep wanting to say Long Claw.
Me too. That's why I don't know where they come from. Long Claw?
It's Jon Snow's sword.
Oh, right. There you go. So anyway, first he reaches out to these guys and he's like, no, I'm not Elias. So he tries to project an image of himself with the axe, and they're like, oh, yes, you, young bull. And in their minds, they've given him a name. They've got a mental image of him, which is this giant shaggy wolf, like with his curly hair on all over his body and steel horns as a bull and stuff. So it's a pretty cool image, actually. Yeah. And they've given him a name, and this kind of shocks him. Like, oh, they know about me. Like, all the wolves in the world know about me, and they've given me a name. Because, I mean, obviously, he's special amongst them, because there's only 2 other humans in the world that can speak with him.
Yeah. So my first note from this chapter is, young bull, so rad.
So, well, he sends them the scent of Fane, and then also it's just the scent is so crazy that he decides, okay, it's so unique and so disgusting, they may not register it or understand it, so he sends the scent of Trollocs as well, because he knows how much they hate the Trollocs. So yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we know those guys. We can smell them. We know where they are. We're going to go rip their throats out right now. And he's like, no, he has to kind of calm them down. Wait for us to get there. Just chill out. We're coming.
He almost wants to run off with them.
Yes.
He has to stop himself. Like he starts snarling.
But he asks them as well while he's there. This comes out later as well. He asks the wolves, do you, while I've got you on the line, do you also know where Rand is? And he sends them there because like these guys just disappeared, and the wolves are the same. Like they send an image of the portal stone and going to sleep, and boing, that's it. Then they lose them as well. So completely out of there. And when he sends them this message afterwards, he howls aloud. I read that in the book thinking, I mean, did you guys notice that as well? Did you read that line?
No.
I can't recall that.
Yes, he sends them to him before howling aloud. Now, I'm wondering if it's him howling aloud. I read it twice now, and it's him. So where is he? He's just standing amongst the soldiers, howling into the sky?
Yeah, he stood off to the side.
But surely a howl is going to be heard.
But he had to let go of the scent of Fane before he actually vomited. It was that wretched.
Yeah. But no, we're not going to talk about him howling aloud. That's not a thing.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I'm going to go back and read that. He must be like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they sort of conveniently do off to the side. Like Rand goes off to the side and unfurls the entire dragon banner. You know, like, what are you doing? There are people around. You can't just be howling and flapping a dragon banner around.
Yeah, here it is. I'll read you the exact line.
Please do.
To mask Fane's smell in his own mind, he added the scent of Trollocs before he howled aloud. From a distance came the cries of the wolf pack, and in the hollow, horses stamped and whickered fearfully. So the horses hear the wolves, but they didn't hear him. And is he right next to the horses? This is bizarre. I mean, he's trying to keep a low profile. Maybe he just couldn't help himself.
Well, he snarls and he almost runs off, so maybe the howl just escaped.
Now that he's connected with the wolves and stuff, he becomes more wolfy. I don't know.
He does.
Very much so. Anyway, so he howls aloud. Anyway, then he goes over to Ingtar and he says, listen, I know how to find all these guys. And Ingtar's like, how do you know? And he goes, Wolves told me. And Ingtar's just like, oh, okay, cool.
I've heard of this.
I've heard of this. Like, he takes it so well. Like, he stops for a
Yeah.
little bit, he pauses and goes, okay, I believe you.
Well, he says there was a warder, Elias Makero, who said that he could do the same.
Yeah. So he knows Elias as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, I've heard of this before, but listen, let's not tell the rest of the guys this. We'll just say that you're a sniffer, because everyone's seen him like wrinkling his nose, and they actually got a running joke in the group that he's got this very sensitive nose, like he can't handle all the disgusting shit that they're used to. Trolloc bodies lying all over the place. I also have a note here that Matt is a moron. Now, with nothing else around it, so I don't remember why I wrote it. I suppose it's just generally true.
You can put that note every second line.
Because he's trying. Oh, yes, this is when Matt's trying to tell them, oh, maybe they all just ran away, you know? And Ingtar's like, why would they run away? Why would Rand run away with my sniffer and one of the builders? Like, those three people together make no sense.
And also, Uno and Ingtar both seem sort of disdainful of the idea of Hurin running away at all. He's one of their men. You know, he's one of them, and he would not run.
Yeah, so it's all very confusing. They don't. But anyway,
shut up, Matt.
Matt is a moron. Yeah, Matt's just not helping at all, making things worse. So anyway, they get the wolves tell him, basically, they don't tell him south, but they show him images, and he has to figure it out because they don't obviously use compasses. So they head south, and they come upon, and just before they come upon this village, everyone has been slaughtered. Perrin tells them to stop, and he's like, look, so there's some bad shit up there because the wolves are ahead of him and they send him messages. And this is another one of those gruesome scenes where we get some more insight into the brutality and the horror of the Trollocs, that this entire village...
That's the same scene from the village that they killed?
It's the people from the previous village that the Trollocs took with them, that they then ripped apart and cut up and arranged their heads on top. So the wolves found that pile of bodies that Fane told the Trollocs to make. The wolves find it.
Is this not a new village?
No, it's the people from the village.
Previous village, yes.
That were traveling with him. So, you know, in that previous chapter where Fane tells the Trollocs to kill a bunch of people and arrange their heads, because they talk about decapitated heads.
Yeah, okay. And I'm just wondering if they came across another. Maybe it's, I read villagers and I read village.
Yes, okay. It is the dead villagers. But then... yeah, then the wolves, in the vision from the wolves, there's a bunch of like buzzards and vultures and stuff around, and then Perrin can actually see them off in the distance, but very, very small. So they are actually still a ways from that, and Perrin just says, we don't want to go there, or something bad happened there.
Yes. But anyway, apparently, now, again, this could be me imagining things, but are there not hundreds of corpses?
I don't know if they put a number, but it's the entire village.
Yeah, they rounded up the entire village.
Because in the last chapter from our previous episode, Fane is sort of lamenting the fact that he got so distracted by the Madral that the Trollocs went and rounded up the entire village. And then that night when he's sitting there and he scares the shit out of the dark friends sitting around the fire, basically telling them they're cattle, he tells the Trollocs, eat as many as you want, but leave a bunch, make a pile, cut off their heads, stack it up all neat and tidy now.
Oh, yes, that.
And that's what the wolves find, and that's what they send to Perrin, and that's what Perrin says to Ingtar. There's bad juju down there.
Yeah, there's bad juju. Exactly. But anyway, so they stop, and they're not going further. Just then, Perrin, well, everyone, I suppose Perrin sees it first, but there's a rider coming from the north that's following them. And as the rider gets closer, we see it's Verin again. Verin, as you said, finger on the pulse. She's everywhere. She says that when she arrives, when she joins their group, she says that Moraine sent her, which is not true.
I know. Is it? Is it not?
We actually don't know.
I think she's lying.
I don't know if it is this single line that has influenced my memory of Verin's role in the story, but I had previously thought that Moraine had asked Verin to act on her behalf around Rand specifically. Verin is, as I remember, and again, this is from 10 years ago, Verin was sent to the Two Rivers. She's working with Moraine and Swan, while at the same time being Black Ajah, obviously. But she's the only one that knows that Rand is the Dragon Reborn from the normal Aes Sedai. And Moraine doesn't know that she's Black Ajah. So I can buy that Moraine sent her. But is she, I mean, she's older than Moraine.
Mm-hmm.
is she not Moiraine's senior? I mean, Moiraine, as far as other Aes Sedai go, I think is reasonably strong in the power, but she's nowhere near Elaine and Egwene and those guys. So I don't know if it's like a power thing. If because Moiraine might be stronger than Verin, she might be able to just, ask this sort of thing of her. But another weird thing is that she leaves her warder behind.
Yeah.
Thomas is not with her.
But he's also black.
And in fact, in another chapter, someone says Thomas is like beside himself. He doesn't know where Verin went.
Look, I don't think this is true. First of all, you're right, because in the White Tower, it's power. It's ranking in the power that puts you ahead.
It's unspoken.
It doesn't have to be unspoken or spoken.
But it's accepted.
That's the way it is. Whoever's the strongest leads. Where that's a thing that comes up later when the women circle, where they put age above strength and the power with these wildlings. But anyway,
the kin.
But the kin. But the plan is to set Rand loose and send him down to Tyr with the Horn of Valir. I mean, that was the plan all along. Was to Moraine's plan. So why would she tell Verin then to go and find them? And why not send them all together? Why send them so late? Why send her down so late?
It's fishy for sure.
I think we should definitely put a pin in that one and follow that one through and specifically look for something. Because it's I can't really pick up anything either.
Her warder is also black. He's a dark friend.
He's a dark friend, yeah.
So Verin left him behind. Why? If she's sharing everything with him, this actually brings me around to thinking maybe Moiraine did send her, and Verin didn't want to tell Thomas that she's acting outside of her capacity as a Black Ajah member in this specific instance. I don't know. It is weird. It is very weird. It's very strange. The fact that Moiraine can ask Verin to do this and Verin would comply and that she would leave her warder behind.
I think that she's just obsessed with Rand. I mean, she brings it up she's the first one to go into the tent to train the girls from your chapter. And she ask about Rand? She doesn't interrogate as much as Liandrin.
No, she didn't ask anything about Rand. Yeah.
No.
She went straight in about teaching the girls.
All right.
She knows more about Rand than the girls do.
Okay.
At this point, right? Like she's been in the room with Swan and Moiraine and Rand.
Well, anyway, when she gets to this group of Shinarians, she looks around for a little while and immediately goes, "Where's Rand?" She's there. She's not there for anybody but Rand. So she's on her own mission, I think.
Perrin notices that.
Yeah. We know that she's Black Ajah, so we know she can lie. She's just say, "Oh, Moiraine sent me," just makes everybody at ease. Like, "Oh, Moiraine, the Aes Sedai we know, so we can trust." Blah blah blah. But obviously not. I don't think so. But I suppose we can put a pin in it and follow it and over the next couple of books and see what happens.
Literally everything Verin does, I'm going to be looking at very closely.
I'm kind of inclined to agree with Moritz on that one. That there was such an emphasis made about how Thomas is beside himself that she just left overnight and disappeared. That it kind of makes me think that it could very well be the case.
I didn't mention that in my chapter recap when Egwene is talking to Anaya. Anaya says to Egwene, Moiraine left 2 days ago without a word. And then immediately behind her, Liandrin, and then Verin. And Thomas is beside himself, like she didn't take her water. Like, Aes Sedai just shooting off and going and doing their own thing, and Verin leaving her water behind. There is definitely something afoot here.
But look, we know that she's a double agent, so maybe she just wants to really protect Rand and go and see what's happening, and she can't tell Thomas that, and she doesn't have Moraine's permission, so she just does whatever the fuck she pleases.
Yeah.
She's an Aes Sedai.
That fits.
So anyway, she's there now, and she's having a chat with them. It's like she's not going anywhere. And she agrees that those three that disappeared, she's like, what, Rand disappeared with Hurin and with Loial? That is weird, very strange. She has a little think, and then she decides, okay, well, I'm going to hang out with you guys. Maybe we'll meet up with Rand again. Because she does look back north where they had left, where they'd spent the night. And Perrin's like, for a moment, it looked like she was just going to go back north. So the rest of you can go fuck yourselves. I'm after Rand. Like, Rand is the key here. But she decides to stay with them, and hopefully they'll bump into Rand or their paths will cross again. The Horn of Valir is very important, so I suppose she realizes that it's linked to Rand in some way. So chances are they'll meet up together again if they go and find the Horn. And that's where the chapter ends.
Yeah. My perception of that chapter was dominated by this Verin.
This Verin person.
This Verin business. Yeah, very strange. She also knows that Hurin is a sniffer. She's like, oh, you disappeared with your sniffer? And Ingtar's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Sniffer, what are you talking about? And she goes, come on, let's not beat around the bush here.
Yes.
He's a sniffer. I know what they are.
And now you've got another sniffer. How convenient. All of a sudden, the second one disappears, he has another one. She doesn't know he's a wolf brother, though. Hey, or she might suspect. She might know it. Who knows? This woman knows everything.
She's probably taken one look at him, seen his golden eyes, never let her mask of vagueness slip, and still knows.
Okay, as that question came out of my mouth, of course she knows.
What else? What else did I have for that chapter? I was stoked that Perrin just came clean to Ingtar about being able to talk to wolves, and that Ingtar sort of just accepts it, which I'm sure helps Perrin feel a bit more normal about it.
Yeah, like he knows
Not
about it.
much.
He knows about it, and he said he's heard about this because as well the wolves have got a really high standing in the Borderlands.
Yes, they're good luck.
Wolves are good luck because of how much they
yeah.
hate Trollocs. But yes, like we said, he mentions Elias by name.
Well, Ingtar's not young. He's been around a while. So he probably met Elias when he was a warder still.
Well, Elias also coached Lan, right?
Yeah.
And Lan grew up in Shinar, so there's probably ties via Lan to Elias as well.
Indeed.
But yeah, this Verin thing is going to eat at me. What is she doing?
She's up to no good.
Okay, rolling on. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Cool. Chapter 15 is called Kinslayer, and just like Longclaw, I have to stop my internal voice from saying Kingslayer the whole time in reference to Jaime Lannister. You can see Robert Jordan and George R. R. Martin were friends.
Yeah.
A lot of crossover naming conventions and stuff going on. So now we jump back to the Portalstone world, and we join the three as they're traveling along. And Rand thinks about how the only thing that helps with the queasiness of the land around him is by assuming the void. But he's reluctant to do so because he knows Sidin is there waiting for him. But he can tell that, this is affecting Hurin and Loial as well. Hurin is sort of like, as soon as Rand thinks Hurin is noticing the weirdness of it, like Hurin is sort of like wiping his hands on his coat, and then he sticks his nose out in front of him and sort of closes his eyes and sort of tries to focus on just following the scent. And Loial looks deeply troubled. But here we hear about the huge swaths of land that are burnt, and Rand equates it to like a brushstroke, tapered at the ends, but sometimes like a mile wide, and other times, just a couple hundred yards and stuff. But I immediately thought of dragons flying overhead and scorching the land in like long swaths. But it could also be a person standing, channeling like a massive amount of fire or something in front of them. It would originate at a single point and fan out and then stretch for however long.
Balefire?
Well, Balefire wouldn't burn it.
No.
Balefire would make it disappear.
Well, we'll get there. But yeah, I think the black lines in the grass are too precise to be dragons or just wildfire. It must be something mechanical, perhaps, because I don't know. You noticed the lines in the sky. There's chemtrails, bro. Chemtrails.
I absolutely. He notices the long, thin clouds that are too long and too thin and too straight to be natural, and he hopes that no one else noticed them. But I immediately thought of, what are they? Vapor trails, not actual chemtrails, but made by aeroplanes.
The dark one in this world. It's chemtrails. And also the lines on the ground. So could it be that they had some sort of technology in this if universe?
I mean, it's an if universe, so yeah.
I don't know, there's vapor trails, if you want to call them that.
They had dragons and aeroplanes.
Exactly. Dragon planes. That'll do those lines on the ground. Yeah.
Anti-dragon aeroplanes.
That's what. But anyway, continue.
But even the green, so Rand notices that even the green parts of the grass and the undergrowth and stuff doesn't seem alive, quote unquote. It seems flat and deadened. They try the water, and the water is cold and wet, go figure. But it tastes as if it's been boiled, like it just tastes bland. It tastes like nothing.
Yeah.
And then halfway through the morning, Loial suddenly dismounts and walks over to a tree and starts singing to the tree, serenading it, if you will. But he sings a staff out of this tree, and he walks on over to his horse. He gets back on the horse with the staff across the pommel, and they ride off again. And Rand's wondering to himself, why would he need a staff? He's riding on a horse. And then he realizes from the way that Loial is holding it, that it's a quarterstaff, that he's made a weapon. And he asks him about it, and he says, look, we are not quick to anger, and, we don't want to make weapons, but this place makes me uneasy. And then he says a weird thing about how the land seemed glad that a weapon was made. Which I didn't know how to take that. I don't know what the intention of that little throwaway line was, just to make the place seem weirder.
I think the Dark One won, so it's a land of the Dark One, and death and pain and weapons are now the norm. I would think.
Could be
something nuclear as well. Do you think that happened there? Because there are some giant mutated frogs. I don't know.
Well, they're Grolm. And
Yes.
those exist in Randland as well. In Seanchan.
No, they don't. The Seanchan use the portal stones to go to these lands and fetch Grolm and bring them back and use them in their armies.
Really?
Yes, I've done some research on this because there's not a lot of information in the books, in these chapters at least, about the portal stones and the portal worlds.
Or the Grolm or anything, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I did some research on it, and apparently they use their channelers. They got portal stones as well. That's why I thought, remember a couple of, I don't know how many episodes ago, I said they end up going to Seanchan to these stones because of the Grolm there. But turns out, no, it wasn't Seanchan, that they go to these worlds and fetch Grolm. And what are the other flying things they got?
I forget.
Those flying lizard things. Those are also from these portal worlds.
Raken.
Yeah, exactly. And Raken.
Raken, yeah.
And so they bring them back and use them in their armies. They're not from Randland.
Awesome.
Even better. Yes.
That's cool.
So I'm wondering if lands were they shadow spawn, were these Grolm created like Trollocs were created, or were they a result of the war and maybe because everything's so burnt and everything's so flat, like maybe a nuclear holocaust took place or something, I don't know. Theories.
They do have 3 eyes, like the fish from Simpsons.
Yeah, exactly. That's all the proof we need.
I think that's it. 3 eyes, mutant, radioactive mutant.
Telling you, man. Everything's so burnt and black and dead and there's no life. I don't know. Maybe there was.
Hell, maybe it was lasers.
Radioactive
Could be
lasers.
anything.
So now we know it's dragon planes shooting radioactive lasers from their eyes. That's what happened.
Yes.
Clearly.
I think we've solved it. Guys,
Okay.
let's pack it up.
Okay. End of podcast.
We're done here. Our job here is done. Well, after Loial says that the land was glad for a weapon to be made, Rand instructs Hurin to continue following the trail. And around midday, Hurin starts looking a little perplexed. And when Rand asks him why, he says it's because he feels like he's not actually smelling the trail, but like he's remembering it. But he's not, because he never knew it. So he is smelling it. It's just he can't put it into words. But he can still smell it. But then he says he can smell other trails as well, and like lots of them. So I was wondering whether Hurin was smelling violence that had happened in that portal world, or since we find out that he could be smelling potential future passages of people that have committed violence, if he is in this space smelling everyone that is still going to come, that had done violence and passed through there.
Possibly. Does he smell it like he's smelling the other one, or does he smell it fresher and newer? Because is it the Grolm?
He doesn't make that distinction, but he lumps them all in together. Like he says, okay. I can smell others as well, and lots of them. But because he earlier established that each one is unique, he can lock onto the one and follow the one for that they've been following thus far. But he says there's loads of others around as well, so it could be like he's also smelling ones that are still going to happen. Anyway, at sundown they then camp. I've got your Loial lights up his pipe, and then Rand starts doing some practicing with his sword, and this is when he does all his sword form practices and stuff. And he then takes first watch, lets the other guy sleep, and he unwraps Tom's harp and flute, and he blows a couple of sad notes on the flute, feeling sorry for himself. But he decides that he's going to let the other guy sleep for a while, and he'll just keep the watch for a bit longer. And while he's sort of in thought, he notices that there is a thick fog forming on the ground.
Mashada.
Fuck, he would have PTSD from Mashadar for sure. You know that thought
There
crossed
was
his
no
mind.
fog. It's just all in his brain.
So he put his hand to his sword, and like he's holding his sword out in front of him, and he hears a voice that says, "Swords do no good against me, Therin. You should know that." And he spins around, and he's got the sword in his hands, and he assumes the void instantaneously, which is, as a rereader to me, reassuring, knowing that he's capable of doing that. Like, okay, cool. Rand, he's getting the void down. He's got, if he needs it, it'll be there for him. But Baalzamon approaches him out of the dark, dressed all in black, masked in black silk mask, carrying a black wooden staff. Villy, is this the staff with which he stabs Rand?
I think it is, but it's yes, it is. It is, yes.
I think in episode 1 or 2, I was speculating about Rand's wound and him being stabbed with a staff and not a sword. And when I read this, I was like, haha, I was right. He is stabbed by a staff and not a sword. So anyway, it's Baalzamon in his favorite Halloween costume. Fiery eyes behind the black mask. And he gives Rand the "I know you and I've always known you" speech. This is the sum total of my notes here. Like, I mean, you get it, Baalzamon.
How many times has he given the speech?
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez, at least 3 times that I can remember.
And Rand just says, okay, look, you're the father of lies, you lie, blah, blah, blah. And then Baalzamon walks over to Hurin and Loial while they're talking, and Rand notices that he doesn't disturb the fog. So that immediately, to me, calls into question whether he is there physically or not. Don't have the answer to that, but making that kind of comment, you're not trying to make him scarier by not moving the fog around him. I think it is a hint that he might not be there in physical form.
And also because when Rand has his sword out, he twirls quickly when he hears Baalzamon, whatever the fuck he's called, voice. And in the book it says, and the fog swirls around his feet.
Around him.
So it is, Rand affects it.
Yes, and he draws a comparison to himself. It doesn't swirl around his feet like it does Rand's. Like in that, they make the comparison between the two.
But I think, to show that he hasn't pulled Rand into the... it's the same letters, but hasn't pulled Rand into the world of dreams. Like, Rand is in the real world, but Moradin is a fourth projection? I don't know.
Something like that. I mean, they get pretty fast and loose with the illusionary magic later in the books, where people can suddenly just put a veil over themselves and look like someone else, and project illusions and stuff. So Baalzamon mentions to Rand that he keeps odd followers, and that's when he mentions the girl who's trying to look out for him, who we know is Egwene, and we know that she saw him in a version of the World of Dreams where he was sort of spying on Rand while Rand was sleeping. And then, it's a long conversation basically, so I'm going to shorthand what the conversation basically was.
Yes, please.
Rand says, "You lie, father of lies," as he so often says to him. And Baalzamon just says, "Do I? You know what you are. I told you. So have these women from Tar Valon." He struggles to call them Aes Sedai because he probably looks down upon them and, thinks back to himself being as an Aes Sedai. There's a definite contempt and like looking down on them. Do I lie when I say those women mean to control you like a dog on a leash? And do I lie when I say you seek the horn of Valir? Which I think was a cheap guess on his part. Obviously, he doesn't seek it. He's trying to reclaim it, but maybe not for the reasons that Baalzamon thinks that he wants to. And then Rand's standard response, "I deny you." Baalzamon then just says, like, we're tied together with thousands of cords, thinner than silk, more delicate than silk, but stronger than steel. And I took a note here that
Matt is a moron.
And immediately after that, but Baalzamon talks about them, like their fates being tied together. They've known each other for centuries, and they've always fought, and they will always again, and that their fates are intertwined. Now that we have read all of the books, we know that that is almost literally true, in that when they cross their balefire streams in around about Crown of Swords, I think, in Shadow Logoth at one time, and they start seeing each other when they channel, and there's like, at the very, very end of the book, I mean, massive end of the series spoiler, but I mean, Rand basically assumes Moradin's body, like they body swap. You know, they are tied to each other in more than just a figurative way. They later sort of start inhabiting the same space, or inhabiting the same space.
Can I interject here? Talking about these notes, I thought of something else. Balsamon is still speaking to Rand as if he is the Dark One. Because I don't know if Moradin, that specific Forsaken, is in the same pattern over and over and over, like the Dark One and the Dragon Reborn are.
He's certainly painting that picture.
Look, but Rand at this point doesn't know that he's a Forsaken, still.
No, he thinks he's the Dark One.
So yes, the Dark One and the Dragon Reborn have been doing this dance over and over. But Moradin specifically, I don't think he's...
True.
I think he's just this one time.
Maybe it's him just completely like trying to be the Dark One, trying to be the number one.
I think that Ishmael has convinced himself of his importance in this cycle. Like, I think that he is suffering somewhat of some delusion that he is the one that is destined to fight him, because when you read about Ilan Morin, the Aes Sedai, and about his pride and his hubris and his self-inflated, sense of importance, that seems to fit that narrative. Like, he probably does think that he plays like he is the Dark Dragon.
Yeah.
That's the sense I get anyway. Like, he's blurring the lines for himself. He has not taken the time to correct Rand from thinking that he is the Dark One.
Yeah.
It was Villy, I agree. I think he is at least somewhat convinced himself that he is also as important as the dragon. But Jody, you're right, that's not what the cycle is supposed to be. Like, the cycle is the battle between the Dark One and the dragon. And he most certainly is not that.
If we go back to the Dark Friend social, he appears to everyone as if he is the Dark One. He's standing up there, calling the shots for all the followers. He's really thinking he's playing this role while the Dark One's strapped below 5 more seals, and he can't get up to kick him in the butt.
And this is his job, and this is what the orders he got from the Dark One. Also remember that Moradin hasn't been trapped in the ball. Have we confirmed this? Like, this entire time he's been free?
Some people seem to think that he's free in cycles. Like, there are times when he is more free and other times when he is not. How that fits into the overall narrative of the wheel, I don't know. It's all very hazy.
Just to confirm, talking about the cycle again, like, the Dragon Reborn is reborn every time that the last battle needs to be fought or whatever. Do 12 Aes Sedai become Forsaken every single time in the cycle, or is it different every time? Like, maybe in one cycle he doesn't have any Forsaken at all. I don't know.
I think that could be the case. I don't think there needs to be Forsaken. I don't think the Forsaken form part of that
Carathian cycle.
Yeah, you said it, not me.
That's what it's called now.
Okay, so
questions.
Oh, we're still mid conversation here. Balsamon says, "Serve me, serve Shaitan, or be destroyed forever." Now, is he referring to himself as Shaitan, or is he saying, "Serve me, serve the Dark One"? I actually had a note here. Does he show his hand? Does he show his hand?
No, I think he's telling the truth, but not telling the truth, like in a typical Aes Sedai way.
They're so duplicitous. I hate them.
What does Forsaken or duplicitous? Yeah, that's their worst trait.
I meant all Aes Sedai. From the Age of Legends and from this time, from the Third Age. Anyway, so Ram just grips his sword real tight and denies Balsamon and his power, and he just says, "I walk in the light." And then Balsamon takes a weird tack. He's like, "Do you want to see my face?" In almost a whisper. And Rand is just, "No, I don't. I don't want to see your face." And Balsamon goes, "You should." and then pulls the mask off. And you can see that his face is burnt, like he's busy healing from it. But in between, like the red, gashes and burned wounds with the black edges, the skin is completely healed. So it's almost like it's not an overall burn. He is busy healing himself in some fashion. And he says to him, "Look at me, Kinslayer, and see the 100th part of your own fate," which is also a weird, obscure thing to say, but kind of ties in with the "my face is your fate" kind of
yeah.
narrative, because later it literally becomes his face.
Yeah.
But when Ishmael is killed at the end of this book, and he is resurrected as Moradin, so his next incarnation takes the name Moradin. That's when he finally becomes Moradin. He has a different face to what Ishmael had and Elan Morin had. At least that's what I remember. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I would imagine so.
Yeah, I thought it was, oh yeah, obviously this is your face. But then I thought about it. It's like, no, well, Rand takes Moradin's face. And is that a different face? I don't know. Face. Belzamon or Ishmael then tries to tempt Rand to use the power. And he's saying, look, I'm the only person that can teach you how to use it. There's no one else around that can do it. And, all you have to say is, I am yours, great lord. And you will avoid madness. You will avoid death. All the stuff that you've been fearing ever since you basically started thinking that you might be able to channel. And good old Rand, like the stubborn Manetherin boy that he is, he says, never, I walk in the light. And then Belzamon's eyes just grow really, really bright, and everything goes bright around them. And Rand's sword starts to glow. And as he drops it, he notices the heron is burnt into his hand. He was gripping his sword really tightly, and when the whole sword starts to glow, he drops it and he sees that the heron from the hilt is actually branded onto his hand. And then it feels like the very fog around him takes flame, and his clothes are on fire, and his body's on fire, and he's like patting himself out, and then suddenly it's all gone, and his hands are fine. Well, not burnt.
Yeah.
And his clothes are fine and everything. And he feels like maybe he imagined it all. But then he looks down at his hand and he sees the heron quite clearly branded onto his hand. And that is the first of the prophesied marks of the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
First time branded with the heron. The other one happens, I think, Villian, you said at the end of this book, right? Like when he stabs him.
Yeah, when he stabs him, he gets the second one. But that there for me is just a confusing ass little interaction between him and Ishmael, because I
It is a bit.
I really don't get that you can heat his sword up and burn him a brand, but his clothes that's burning is gone. It's not burning when he sort of gets out of it. It's conflicting.
Maybe he can do a little bit of magic and then cast some more illusions and stuff around it. Because remember, he's also not trying to kill Rand. He's trying to make Rand see that it is futile to fight him. So he's showing him these sort of like flashes of power.
So maybe it's a little bit of a Aes Sedai trickery.
He's trying to manipulate him.
Okay, that tracks.
Yeah, that's the end of that chapter, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
We discussed everything pretty much during the description of that chapter, which is great.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that we missed out there?
No, I think the biggest thing is, again, just this, whether you want to call it a dream or projection or interaction between the two of them. But it's a pretty uneventful world that they're traveling in.
Yes. I mean, no one has even named the world of dreams and actually introduced that entire mechanic to the story yet, and we're already perplexed by it. What is actually happening here? What is real and what is not?
But it's good to know now that it is not a dream that Egwene had, because he again reaffirms saying that, yes, this girl that's watching over you is so.
Yes.
Maybe Rand fell asleep for a part of it, like standing guard, but he didn't really stand guard.
I mean, that's not impossible. And he was tired. He could have just nodded a microsleep. And in the world of dreams, you can do a lot in the microsleep.
Yep.
Yeah, but then again, he wouldn't have affected the fog. So he is there.
But is the fog not only in his dream?
Moritz is taking this. It's like Inception style. Dreams within dreams.
Okay, I think we've exhausted that one and left. We've frayed its edges and left so many dangling threads that we are never going to be able to tie them all up for the duration of our show. So please, listeners, do help us out and give us some clarity. We crave it. So the next chapter is chapter 16, In the Mirror of Darkness. Take it away, Villy.
Well, it's the next morning, and the only real thing that has remained from the night's interaction with Rand and the acting Dark One is his branded heron on his hand, which he wrapped his handkerchief around. And the fog has melted away, and they pretty much all waking up. And Hurin's sort of giving Rand, like, no, Lord Rand, you shouldn't have done that. And he's like, no, he had to think. So it's all good. You're all good, homie. Loial notices that his hand's wrapped, and he's like, no, he's got some ointment or some lotion in his saddlebag if you need something. He's like, no, it's nothing. Don't need salve. Everything's good. And Loial saying, okay, well, you don't have to be so touchy.
Yeah, he snaps at him.
He gives him a little snap. Yeah. So they again set off in this weird world, and like weird scenes and weird sightings. Like if you look too fast or turn your head too quickly, I think we've pretty much exhausted what's happening in that world. It's a trippy world. Things aren't good there. Sniffer's nose in the air is going to go with it, but they keep heading south. And they then see in the distance the statue, or the spire, or that was raised for Arthur Hawking.
They think,
yeah. And then the Rand is also kind of excited, like, no, we need to go and see this. And he still tells her, and like, imagine you can tell your kids back home that you've seen this. And it gets him kind of like, yeah, that'll be a good story to tell the kids. So they gallop the distance, but quite quickly get there. Sort of, it was far away, but then it's there quickly. And then Rand sort of lets loose and wants to get to it quickly, but Loial tries to like edge him back. And he gets there to realize that it's not quite what he expected. There's Trolloc script all over it. And he then looks up, and then that's when Loial catches up to him. It's like, that's what I'm trying to call you. It is not a hawk. It's a raven. And
at the top of the spire.
Yeah, on the top of the spire. And this is very possible that this is a whole different outcome to that event. That's why it's not broken down. That
there's a hawk carved into the spire, but it's on its back with a lightning bolt through its chest.
Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
Things did not go well.
Things didn't go well there. So it kind of made me think, and this plays back into that Selene dragging them into this world. Why specifically this world? But a part of that was overthrown by Jody and his astute observation that the Grolm is from this world. Rand is at this stage like sword back in hand, like expecting a Trolloc attack any moment, because here we go. Now we see this. There's signs of them here, and he's just feeling uneasy. And the Loial takes a note of the mountains, that it's Kingslayer's dagger that he can see there, and that is not lying more than 100 leagues south of the Erin. Rand says, okay, maybe this is something like the ways, is like we're traveling faster than you do in the normal world. And while all of this is going down, they hear a woman scream, and Hurin sort of Razi said he knew he saw a woman. He thought he saw something. Not unless she can fly, Rand said then, but she's south of us. So Rand kicked Red in the flanks, and they set off.
Is this all happening around the spire? So they're standing at the spire, and Loial saying, not only is this spire weird, but check out those mountains over there. That's Kinslayer's dagger. we shouldn't be anywhere near it. We've only been traveling for 4 days south of the Erin, and we shouldn't be anywhere near Kinslayer's dagger. It's considerably more than 100 leagues from the river Erin. And then while they're busy talking, Hurin goes, hang on, I just saw something. And he points back north. And Rand says, what did you see? And he says, I thought I saw a woman and something else. And then when they hear the scream, it's south. And Hurin says, it must be that woman. And Rand says, not unless she can fly, because she's south of us now. But as we know, it's Lanfear. So
she can
step
move
through
around.
a gateway or flew on the back of a winged Grolm. I don't know. She could have done anything. But yeah, we know for sure at this stage who we are dealing with, right? Like Celine is not fooling anyone.
She's fooling Rand and Loial. And...
Yes, yes.
The fooling is still yet to come. He's going to be smitten.
I want to talk about that. But let's get there.
He goes full tilt. Is now full savior mode. And while he's on the horse running, he already takes his bow out and gets the arrow. He sort of gets to the point where it's close enough to see something looks like a big bear, but a bear that's a frog with grey-green hide. It's very weird. He's never seen anything like this before, but he's not thinking too much about the creature, and he's unlimbering his bow. He gets ready, and he's happy he's taken the time to ride a bit closer, and he then lets loose an arrow. And it's a big target, so not a difficult thing. And the woman then shouts at him, now you got to shoot it in the eye. And this is when the Grom then turns to it, and he realizes which eye. There's 3 of them on his triangular face.
This is a comical scene, right? She's standing in the river with a horse and trying to fend off a Grolm with a stick. Like she's got a stick in her hands.
It was a big stick, Moritz.
It was, yes, it was a big stick. And then Rand fires an arrow into this thing's side. And it plunges, like the arrows, Rand says at one point, are as long as his arm. And the arrow goes halfway into this thing. So like think half of a 6'4" man's arm inside this thing. And it just turns to him then and starts running towards him. And that's when she shouts to him, no, shoot it in the eye. I'm like, okay.
And he then immediately seeks the void, just like Tam taught him, and he lets loose, and sure makes the mark. He hits it right in the eye, and she's like, "Oh, well shot, so brave," she called out. And he then, a few men would stand to face a Groll, my lord. She comes over.
But she does not seem phased at all.
No, nothing. She's this is a fairy tale thing. That's why she planned this. I still feel, just through this interaction, that she brought those Groms. Now, they might not be from that land or might be from a different place, but I think she brought them there for Rand to do exactly that thing.
Yeah.
Be the hero.
I'll wait till the end, because there's more later, and we'll get to that.
But yeah, her white dress is divided for riding, belted in silver, and her boots is peeking out from under the hem, and she's just all too pretty and sexy. And she's riding on a snow white mare. I mean, this is all... What are those cheesy fantasy novels that the old ladies used to read?
Mills and Boone.
But yeah, she appears to be sort of Nynaeve's age, and pale ivory skin, beautiful. Moraine is beautiful, but this is a beautiful woman. Sort of Ran is quite taken. She makes reference to, obviously, Hurin and Loial that was sort of coming behind, and they pulled up. Rand obviously getting a little bit shy through all of this. She introduces herself as Celine. And he...
Hi, my name's Lanfear. I mean, Celine.
Celine. No, I'm Rand Althor. And then in horror to him, she knelt for him, sort of go down onto a knee and sort of courtesy quite formally to Rand. So he gets a little bit shy in that. And so, yeah, he suddenly became conscious of her eyes on him, and just a awkward exchange, a little bit romantic comedy, I think. It's the setup, perfect little scene. And yeah, that's she's now with them there, and then they hear this coming of more Groms, pack of them, and they flee them. So when Hurin and them pulled up, sort of everyone is a bit taken by her. Sort of, maybe does she use anything on them? And sort of
That was what I wanted to talk about. Because they are all
Interesting.
smitten.
Yeah. And
Loial says, if there was ever an example of the perfect human face and form, and Rand goes, Loial.
Keep it in your pants.
But the biggest thing here is as well that Hurin, without even thinking anything, says, "Oh no, they're hunting for the horn of Alea." So much for keeping that in. Like, now, you should have maybe kept that for yourself, buddy. But anyway, back to being smitten, back to looking at her and just being completely gob-eyed. And she...
I've never heard that before. Is that when you drool in your own eye over a lady?
when your eyes are drooling.
Gobsmacked and something with an eye mixed together. Gob-eyed. I dig it.
Yeah, there we go. It works. And they start riding, and she rides with Rand at first and has a bit of a discussion. And Hurin's still following the trail, and later on she falls back and has a talk with Loial, and Rand sort of kind of keeping an eye on them towards the corner, almost feeling jealous that she's now not
big time,
like not riding with him at the moment. And that's pretty much how it goes until they hear the coming of... he actually asks her during the conversation if she's not an Aes Sedai. I think in 2 occasions he asks her if she's an Aes Sedai, and she almost like, no, definitely not that. When she questioned Rand about how he shot the arrow, he said, no, it's this thing that my dad taught me, just seek the void. And she references it as the oneness.
She tells him that experienced swordsmen and people that employ that technique to fine-tune it, they try to wrap themselves in it all the time. So this is what I was alluding to earlier, where she's trying to coax him into channeling. She knows that if he has assumed the void, he is much closer to channeling, and she wants him to channel so that either he'll get better at it, or he'll get addicted to it, or he'll go mad from it. But
she's coaxing him the whole time in that. And then he's also
pushing him. She is very pushy. And none of them comment on it.
No, but I think what is it? Compulsion?
Yeah.
So Jody, there's no obvious signs that she's using compulsion, but their behavior is weird. Rand is crazy jealous. He says something to Loial, of all people, at one point, oh, I'm glad you could talk to him again, the way that you two had your heads together there for a while, being real petty. And the way that Hurin just sort of divulges all of their secret quests details. Loial, who is not, for an Ogier, he's quick to act, but he is still an Ogier, to just blurt out that she is the perfect example of a human, perfect face and form. They're all acting out of character. And we know that Lanfear was an extremely attractive woman, back in the day, and she was, before Lews Therin met and married Ilyena, they were a couple. So yeah, she is a beautiful woman, but she also does something. Rand notices at one stage that at some point he placed her at Nynaeve's age, but now he places her closer to his own age. And I, at that time, wondered if she altered something about the way that she looked, or what Rand thought of her, because it's a weird distinction to make. There's not a huge age difference between them, so it's a subtle change that could be applied, thinking that it wouldn't be noticed. But
maybe she saw his age, sort of a better judge of how old he is, and aligned herself.
In that moment, she wanted to seem more naive or something like that as well. It was just, I noticed it, which could mean it was intentional.
A lot of crazy shit. She talks about that book, The Mirrors of the Pattern, and how she knows so much about these portal stones and these worlds, and not even Loial knows about it. But again, he doesn't mention it or go she explains it as, she's from Kerheim, where they have one of the greatest libraries in the world.
One of the greatest libraries in the world.
And Loial just
Okay.
Yeah, he just gobbles it up.
Yeah, which is weird. No, so she can't be that hot. Like just her innate hotness is making them, all three of them, act like that. She must be
Yeah.
using something. Maybe not. Maybe just
Yeah.
a subtle compulsion, a little, nudge, nudge, wink, wink on their brains.
That concept has already been introduced when Leandrin uses that on Lady Amelisa.
Yeah, but doesn't she use it with pain? She doesn't use it with.
She says that she's always had a skill to sort of suggest to people to do things. So it was not full-blown compulsion, but it is also a way to make them make decisions or act in a way that she wants them to.
Yeah. So in agreement, she's using something.
I'm really believing that as well, because even when he has a sort of he's in a monologue about if he could marry anyone, sort of he can't marry anyone. He's doomed to destroy the world,
Yeah.
and if I could marry anyone, it would be Egwene. And then right after that,
Yeah.
but Celine is so beautiful.
He's just met this woman.
Yeah,
He's thinking about, like, how can I dupe her into marrying me?
Yeah.
Joke's on him. She would do it in a heartbeat. She rubs an ointment on his hand and it immediately heals. She's channeling.
Channeling
Right.
right there. Yeah. So she is channeling all the
Yeah.
time.
She calls Loial Alantine,
Yep.
which I checked the big white book for in the old tongue. Tia Avende Alantine means brother to the trees. So she's speaking, that's an old tongue reference. So she's giving away her Age of Legends roots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she's saying about a bunch of weird shit and using weird language like that, and no one notices, no one comments.
And she's sort of like impulsive as well. Like when Rand sort of like pushes back against assuming the oneness all the time, she gets all frustrated with him.
Oh,
But
well.
still manages to keep all three of them on a hook. Yeah.
And like absolutely pushing him that you should get the horn. I'd love to hold it if you get the horn.
Oh,
And
yes. And let me touch it.
Let me touch it. And
let me touch your horn. But yeah, this chapter ends with them hearing or seeing
right
more
at the
Grom.
end, they hear a pack of them, and that's the end of the chapter. Basically, yep. From behind came a distant coughing grunt. Before Rand could will ready to have a look, another bark sounded, and three more were on their heels.
Yeah, so they could see them.
Yeah, they were coming 30 foot bounds.
Yeah. That other one, the first one that Rand killed as well, they describe as he fires the arrow, and then at the apex of one of its bounds, the arrow hits it in the eye. Like,
that's
Rand had to fire.
coming.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, he has to fire an arrow to intercept it mid-air. Like, he's not even aiming where it is. He's aiming where it's going to be. Fucking legend.
That's Tam. Tam taught him all that
Yeah.
shit.
Shot Tam.
Indeed.
What else? I said that in the beginning of this chapter that Rand snaps at Hurin and he's super unsettled by that encounter with Baalzamon. But then soon after that, he gives Hurin what he needs to hear, just a clear command. You know, like he sort of explains what they're going to do and Hurin's still confused. And then he sort of figures that out again, which I thought just speaks to Rand's sort of assuming of leadership again and showing like the type of leader that he is. Like he quickly figured out why Hurin was responding weirdly and then adjusted and it worked despite being unsettled by the previous night's event. And I like seeing Rand being a good leader because, you know, he's going to have to lead multiple nations and basically the whole side of the light. It's on Gaidon. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot in what she says that she's not even trying to be cautious about who she is. There's just giving so many things away. And they're all just eating it up, like not really thinking. And one of the things was when she said, you are always so stubborn to Rand.
Oh, yeah.
I've literally just met you. How do you know I'm always so stubborn?
And he doesn't question it.
No, doesn't question it. And he's like, she's like, I admire stubbornness in a man. There's little to a man who's easily biddable.
And then he gets like, oh, that's something Egwene would say.
No,
Yeah,
it's
she calls him very smart or something. Oh, that's you've come to a very good decision or something. She touches his arm and calls him very
yes.
smart. And then he thinks afterwards, like, Egwene wouldn't have called me smart. She would have called me wool-headed.
We're rather going to marry this girl.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty odd for a woodsman of Rand's skill to mistake a raven for a hawk when they see the spire with the spread wings on top of it. I'll write it off to like the weirdness of the land and the distance at which he was looking at it. But one thing that was cool is when they get to the spire, Rand recognizes the symbols for very specific Trolloc clans.
Yeah.
Like there's the horn skull of the Davol, the iron fist of the Daimon, the trident of the Cobol, and the whirlwind of the Arf-Freight. Like these are clans that Lan hasn't said out loud around him or anything, but
I disagree. Is that not what they found in chapter 6? Book 1, when he goes to meet Moraine across the bridge and her and Lan are collecting
some of those.
She's like, well, there's a whole bunch of... And he just spent some time in the Borderlands as well with all the Shenarians. Maybe he, picked up
That's true.
Lan has been teaching him.
My main takeaway there was cool. Rand is learning about these guys, like he knows what their symbols are. Yeah. What else from that chapter?
I think that area was specifically chosen, and it is a void and dead, so that she could have played out her little orchestrated love potion of compulsion on them through this little offset of this weird creatures that they can kill. Maybe she knew that Rand would be able to do it. They're not as fearsome as they think, but the sight of them is very fearsome. It's something completely new that they could feel heroed, so that this would just work better.
Yeah, it's a blank canvas for her to paint her deception upon.
But yes, comically with fending off a stick, off with the stick standing in the river.
She's trying to present herself as helpless, but is still like shouting instructions to Rand as the thing turns around. She's not shaken at all. And Rand doesn't question it.
No, and he also says as well, like, he is surprised later when she walks up, like she didn't take that opportunity to run away when the Grom left her alone. He makes mention of it in that chapter.
Okay.
But that's before she starts talking to them, and then the more she talks to them, the sillier they get. So I suppose that's when...
Yeah.
Because he is suspicious of her right in the beginning, and says like, oh, well, she didn't run away when that Grom started chasing me. She just hung out and was like, oh, how you guys doing? Anyway.
Let's conclude this little facade.
Soiree.
Facade.
This little show that Lanfear has put up for them with the last chapter, which is chapter 17, choices, which is yours, Jody.
Opening note, more Grolm. So Celine is pushing Rand at this point as well. She's like, we got to go. Yeah, come more Grolm. We got to go to the stone. We can't fight these things, we need to get out of here. She's not wrong, but also she's manipulating them like crazy. But Rand decides he's going to stand and fight. Like, he doesn't want to assume the void. He doesn't want to channel. He's going to rather fight. And at the end of the last chapter, Veli said that we saw 3 of them. In fact, there's 5 of them coming now. So what Rand does is check his quiver. He's got 18 arrows, to be precise, and he takes out 5 exactly. Like, he doesn't want not one more, not one less. 5 enemies,
the same note.
5 arrows. He puts the 4 arrows in the ground in front of him and 1 straight into his bow, and assumes the void and pulls back and fires. Like, it's from when he puts that arrow, when he decides to fight, he takes the arrow and knocks it and pulls it back and fires immediately. It's like seconds. And he hits that first Grom right in the middle eye and drops it. And then as the void continues, he goes again, next, like in these smooth motions. And that's the one with he fires 2 arrows and then stops. The last 2 arrows, I mean. Like, number 4 hits that Grolm in the eye, and the 5th one is mid-air. When the arrow is still in flight, he puts down his bow, as in, like, okay, I'm done. And before it even hits
Such a baller move.
Such a baller move. And the 5th arrow hits this Grolm that's in mid-air during its leap in the middle eye and kills him. And everybody is just like, oh my God. Hurin, as almost wets his pants, is so impressed. But everybody's like, whoa, that's some pretty good shooting you got there, you know, like, wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly, like 5 arrows, 5 targets on the first try every single time. And when he comes out of the void, he expects to be covered in sweat, like it feels like he's been working his ass off and he's done this hard work, but it's been seconds, and his skin is dry and everything is fine. Everybody's just blown away by him.
Yeah.
But yeah, not that it helps very much, because then they hear more barking, or what is the noise that Groms make? I forget what they use.
Barking.
Cooing.
Croak barking.
Croak barking. And it's hundreds of them. So yeah, this, you know, what was Billy was saying, like she's calling them, or maybe she just knows this land very well and she knows how to lure them in because they're already there. But I doubt that she brought hundreds of Grolm with her, you know.
Importantly, you only hear them. Nobody sees these other Grom. After the 5, you only hear them.
Yeah.
And now there's hundreds. Quick, there's hundreds of Grom coming. Go channel against this column.
And show me your horn.
No, this is all way too fishy. And especially the highlighting of not seeing a trace of life. If there was hundreds of Grolm, they would have seen, something has been moving here when they take the horses to drink water. Something has also been drinking water here. There's footprints in the mud. I mean, Tracker 101.
What do they eat?
Yeah, other Grolm.
Each other?
Well, on that note, Jody.
Yeah.
When Rand shoots the first of the 5,
oh yes,
one of the Grom stops to start eating at it, and then has a loud bark and looks towards them, and then carries on going as if compelled. Are the words
as if compelled? The exact word compelled?
I think so.
All right,
pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You know where to email us, people. So yeah, anyway, so that is the thing. So she compelled them. So those 5 were real. The first one was real, and the next 5 were real. But the next hundreds, I don't know. Seems unlikely. But yeah,
I got the sense that she was shocked that Rand killed those. I mean, the 5 were supposed to suffice to, you know, adequately scare them to run to the portal and try and find a way out, where she would explain to Rand what to do. But then Rand just pulled a tam on her and just shot them all in the eye, first shot each. And she's like, oh, God, okay, well, he's only got another 13 arrows left. Let me create an illusion.
Yeah.
This is my theory, that she created the illusion of sound of hundreds of Grom suddenly coming out.
Yeah.
Because you never see them. So I think she went into desperation mode and like just conjured a scenario that Rand could not shoot his way out of.
Yeah. No, totally.
That's my thinking.
You would never put it past her. She probably invented all that shit.
She seems frustrated.
Well, she has severely downplayed the fact that he's got Netherin blood in him. Like the stubbornness is uncanny.
Yes.
But anyway, so regardless, it works. And they head to the portal stone, because that is now the only way out. He's only got 13 arrows, as you mentioned. It's not going to be enough arrows. I mean, if he could channel, easy peasy. But that's not the case. And anyway, so they head to the stone where, like, of course, Selena knows exactly where it is. Like, it's over there in this spot. And they run there, and she shows him exactly which symbol as well to focus on, like the upside down triangle. That in my notes, I've got 2 next to each other, because in Stargate, the symbol for Earth is a normal triangle, upright triangle with a circle above it, like a little dot.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, typical. That's Earth, you know, that's the homeland. So she shows him this symbol, and so it's like, okay, focus on that, put your hand on that, and, you know, do what you got to do. Does she tell him to channel? Obviously, she doesn't say those words, but he knows what he's got to do, and he channels, and he feels like it's burning him, and he channels. He just sucks on so much of the 1 power, crazy amounts. And, of course, everything starts flickering, flicker, and they come out into the real world, where everything is now bright and bushy-tailed, and the colors are there, and nothing is as weird. It's the only word that we could describe it, as that other world. And there's something that she says here. She's like, wow, you brought all of us through, and all of the horses. Remarkable. Why is that remarkable? Didn't she do the exact same thing? I mean, if she's the one that brought them to the world, she brought them.
But I think she also says, that he's untrained.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't really know what he's doing. Like she did a thing that was very, very hard to do, and Rand did it first try.
But another thing I've read about that is that the portal stones, the portal stones are not.
Aren't you referring to how she got there?
No, Jody is referring to our theory that you fielded, that Lanfear brought Rand and Hurin and Loial
Oh,
and all
right.
their horses to the portal world in the first place. So why would she be impressed that Rand could do the same thing? And I think she's impressed because Rand did it without being trained how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like she might have said, like, okay, if Rand can do this, I'll bring the rest. No one knows I can channel.
But I did in my research about the portal stones. It turns out that to use the portal stones is a feat of strength in the one power, not of skill.
Interesting.
So it's only the strongest channelers, those who could travel. And remember, when we talk about traveling, not all Aes Sedai can travel. They can't open gates that big, because it's about strength. So these are the people, the Aes Sedai that could travel were the ones that were using the stones. So they were strong, and this is a feat of the power that they're able to use these stones. So if she knows he's the Dragon Reborn, then okay, I can see that she's surprised that the first time he's doing it the first time he's trying it, he succeeds in bringing everything and everyone. So that may be remarkable to her, I suppose. But it's just, I mean, she's seen some remarkable stuff in her life. I doubt that this lead, Anyway, maybe I'm nitpicking. But anyway, she has a lot of time, for sure. She explains the worlds a bit more, and then how time works differently and everything that, and I think this is where we hear about the ways, or that could have been another chapter, how it was used. But that also that what Hurin was smelling was also the future. Like, because now they've come out ahead of Fane. Where they've come out of the southern portal stone is way ahead of where they should be and where everyone else is, so that Hurin has actually been smelling where they are going to be. So he can smell the future now, and that freaks him out even more.
It does.
Yeah, he's not happy with that. But anyway, and they're ahead of Fane, so that's a good thing, I suppose. And they decide to, because Rand's like, okay, we're going to take you back to Kirhai now and make sure you're safe. And she's like, no, I want to hang out with you guys. I want to get to this horn. There's some stuff I want to see and do. And, it's only going to be a couple of days. And they're like, all right. So they go and set up camp, and they find a place to I think they're going to Kinslayer's Dagger, to be more of those foothills over there, to go and wait for Fane to pass, because they know his route now and which way he's going to go. So they go and wait for Fane and for the horn and for the dagger. And that's how this chapter ends. And also, my last note is Selene is playing him so hard.
Totally. There's a section there where he brings them back through the portal, and she's all like praise for how, oh, you've done it, and whoa. And he's like, oh, I should kiss her now.
Yeah, it's like totally.
That is so irrational.
Yeah,
God. It's actually tedious reading this freaking woman in a white dress. Yes. But maybe this is the absolute point to show what, I mean, no one has really touched on or even mentioned compulsion weaves at this stage. So maybe you really have to pick up that this is just stupid. Like, what is it doing?
I mean, it is also so, like, it's her beauty and stuff is so played up, and the fact that, like, she doesn't need to compel Hurin and Loial, but maybe she takes some enjoyment out of it. I don't know. Like, I think there is a world in which these chapters are meant to show just how infatuated they are with the idea of this beautiful woman, and that she is that beautiful that they would bend over backwards to please her. But my gut feel after our conversation about it is that she was doing something to them.
More than just her womanly wiles.
Do you think the men's horses felt the same about that white mare?
Totally. Shadowfax. That's who it was.
It's been a while since we had a Lord of the Rings reference in it.
Yeah.
Lord of all the horses.
Okay, look, we've analyzed Selene's influence on the gentleman to death now, and I think we've come to the point where we can let these chapters lie. At the very next chapter of our next episode, we'll be back with the girls going to Tarvalon, which will be a welcome change. I mean, This isn't dreary, but it is sort of like a lot of table setting. Like, is not, again, like Matt and Rand traveling. It's not furthering the story, really. It's establishing Selene and Lanfear's presence in the world. It's establishing the presence of portal stones. And then there is one moment that I am willing to bet some amount of money on is our collective favorite moment for the stretch of chapters. I would be surprised if you guys have picked something different. So let's do favorite moment, and we'll start with Billy.
Thanks. On the spot. No, I actually do have one, and
Okay.
it is not. I'm not going to say it. I'll let one of you say that one.
I'm
It's
gonna go with my heart.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going for. No, it's the interaction with Hurin. As soon as they realize they have to, or not realize, just that they're in a different world, and just that little bit of human interaction. It was, like you said, it's heartwarming. It's kind of like just builds and sets up, because he's a pivotal character throughout the rest. He shapes to be something really good. So it's just that, yeah, I like that little exchange there, just bringing in his family, and also later on building on that with, imagine you could tell your kids about this. It's like there's no one else that travels with them that's got children to speak of at this stage.
Yeah. Humanizes him in a way that other characters have not been. Everyone's royalty and magical and killing machines, and here's Hurin. He's just a simple guy. He just wants to get back to his wife and kids.
Yeah, and he doesn't like the violence. He's got his sword breaker and his sword, and he'll stand his ground, but he doesn't want to see the violence when he smells it. It sickens him. He's just got this talent that gets him this job, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that is Hurin's interaction with Rand in that beginning, where Rand also sort of like assumes the role of the Lord that Hurin is taking some kind of solace in following, was my sort of academic favorite moment. If I had to put aside my just moment of badassery that I'm going to cling to. How about you, Joe?
The same as yours, I imagine. We're talking 5 arrows, 5 Grolm, perhaps?
Yes.
Indeed,
yes.
Of course we
yes.
are. Of course, that's my favorite moment. Yes, fantastic skill. It's very well written. I like how it's written and you understand it and it's done. It's a short part, but it's very impactful, and it's a great callback
it's
to
easy to understand.
Yeah.
Yes, it's visual. It's going to look incredible in the show. If they cut that, I'm going to be so bummed, because I actually remember that scene from like previous reads. That's one of those ones that stands out, that stuck around.
If you want me to choose another one so you can have that one, I have
no,
a plethora.
There's no rules here. We don't have to pick different ones, but I just, it's hard to look around that one. Maybe because of the chapters around this section, but that favorite moment would hold its own against many others that we have previously picked. I really took a lot of joy in that.
I can tell you a future favorite moment, that another of Rand awesomeness. I've been thinking about this the week as well. There's a scene in one of the books later on. I think he is with other Ashaman. He could be in the Borderlands, where he's holding onto a window frame. He's inside a tower or a castle, and there's like thousands of Trollocs outside, and he's by himself. And he holds onto the window frame, and he channels, and he kills them all. Do you remember that scene? Is that familiar to you?
Aren't you thinking about the one with in the Stone of Tyr, where he channels lightning throughout the entire building?
No, they're outside. He's standing inside the tower, and he's looking out of a window, and he just grips the window frame with his hands, and he starts channeling. And I think other Ashaman are watching him, and they're all just going, "How is he doing that? How is he splitting his flows into so many different things?"
Is it not when he's like he's at a farmhouse somewhere with some other Ashaman, and Logain is also there, and he starts channeling those death gates?
Oh, something like that. I remember that. Just remember the scene, if it's going to be shot on film, is going to be a guy holding a window frame and everything just dying. And you can't see why or know what's going on. Like if you're just an average person watching this guy leaning against the window, looking out at this field of death. There's thousands of Trollocs death gated.
I mean, the number of favorite moments that we are still going to enjoy and savor over the coming books and years of covering them is, again, tantalizing.
Oh, anyway, I had to get that off my chest.
Yes.
Now, this is going to be a little bit late, but I couldn't remember it, and it sprung up on me while we were talking a bit earlier. we had a question about why would Moraine on the last episode give him the banner or give Ingtar the banner as a package to give to Rand
Yes.
only once they crossed the river. Was it Arenal?
Erin.
And
The one you keep calling the River Erin.
yeah, the River Erin. There we go.
It's the southern border of Shinar.
Yes. Now, I was thinking about this the other day. She knows through the prophecy that they are heading to Toman's Head. But no, that's south as well then. They're still traveling south.
No, Toman's Head is due west.
Due west. So then
or
again...
south and west from Faldara.
But does she know that they're going to Kingslayer's dagger?
No. All she knows is that they are chasing the Dark Friends that stole the horn.
And for all means, that should actually be going north into the Blight.
Into the Blight, like the Madral wanted. The only reason they're not going north like the Madral wanted is because of Paden Fane.
So that's still a mystery.
Yes. Also, the prophecy of meeting at Toman Head is from the Dark Prophecy. I don't know if it's mentioned in the Prophecy of the Light.
No, but the scrolled prophecy on Fane's cell walls
is the Dark Prophecy.
Right.
Yeah, but I see you on Toman Head is the one is written in English by Fane, and Rand erases it with hay off the floor, so no one knows about that. No one knows about Toman Head except him.
All right, well there goes that. Because I was thinking like maybe that was why she thought like they will be heading in that direction, but it doesn't make sense at all because they're going south.
It's not south.
Yeah.
The mystery remains.
Veli, you can't drop this shit on us right at the end of a podcast. No.
Well, I'll use this opportunity to say, if anybody can shed some light on this goddamn mystery that seems to be stumping us week after week continually, please get in touch with us by following us on Twitter and tweeting us at Blood and Ash Pod, or reaching out to us on Facebook at Blood and Ashes Podcast, or going to our website, which is just bloodandashespodcast.com. And leaving us some feedback there, which will find its way to us. You're guaranteed of getting a mention on the show because we are more than willing and eager, in fact, to correct any of the holes or, incorrect paths that we have wandered down in our thinking and in our theories, because we do want this to be a conversation. It's not just a conversation between the three of us nerding out on the books. It's a conversation with everyone. So do please feel free to participate. Next time, we will be covering another 6 chapters of The Great Hunt, chapter 18, which is called To the White Tower, through to the end of chapter 23, The Testing, which, without having read any further, must be Nynaeve.
Yep.
Going to accept it?
Yep.
Both those chapters have White Tower names, which are rad because I'm keen to move away from the Portal Stone worlds and get a bit more insight into the Aes Sedai things.
Yeah, totally.
So what are those chapters?
18 to 23, to the White Tower and the Testing, and everything in between.
Yeah, 19 is Beneath the Dagger, then 20 is Saidin. Ooh. 21, the 9 Rings. Vili, you've read so much of this cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Beneath the dagger, is that what's in the case that Fane rests the dagger on top of?
What?
Mm-hmm.
There's something there? I don't
Could
remember.
it be? Okay, so was there any last thought that you wanted to spring on us before we say goodbye, Vili? Any last theory?
I'll work very hard on some more theories.
Okay, cool. Well, then on that note, we will leave it there and we will join you all again next time for some more mistakes. Loads and loads of mistakes in thinking, but bucket loads of enthusiasm. On that note, I will bid you both a fond adieu and see you next time.
Thank you.
Adios.